What is up, guys? It is Jasmine. How are you today? I'm okay. I am a little nervous about making this video only because I'm worried that family members might see it and they might get angry with me, but then I had to tell myself that this is my story and they cannot tell me not to talk about my own life events because it puts them in a bad light. So if you're a family member and you're watching this, I'm sorry if you're offended. I'm sorry that you're upset, but you can no longer silence me. This is my story and I refuse to pretend that these things didn't happen. As you can tell, I'm a little emotional. I'm going to try not to go into too many personal details, but I thought it would be interesting to talk to you guys today about some of the ramifications of growing up in a household where your parents are addicted to drugs. These are things that I've talked about with other people who have grown up when their parents were addicts. And it's interesting how a lot of us have the same issues that we deal with on a normal basis. And so I thought it would be a good idea to just more or less spread awareness about what children go through when their parents are addicts. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first one is why I'm fat. And I know that probably sounds like the dumbest thing ever, but I've come to the conclusion by talking to different people that a lot of us who have parents who are addicts and have grown up in a chaotic home have weight issues. I'm on the larger side. Obviously, there's a certain YouTuber that everybody knows about that is really worried about her. I'm not going to say her name, but I've had some insider information that someone talked to me about saying that I think she deals with parents that are addicts. Last I knew, she is hopefully getting help. I'm pretty sure everyone knows who I'm talking about. So I'm hoping and I'm praying for her because I can see she has a lot of issues, and I think that stems from the fact that she has parents who are addicts. I think the reason that we either overeat or we refuse to eat is control and comfort. I am comforted by food. If I'm happy, I eat. If I'm sad, I eat. If I'm angry, I eat. I eat to celebrate. I eat when I'm sad. That's my comfort. People who are at the opposite end of the spectrum, who are dealing with eating disorders and the fact that they are too thin, it's control. You can make me do all these things and everything around me is out of control and I can't handle not having any normalcy in my life, but I can control my food intake. And I think that's definitely a huge one for people. The next one is gaslighting. Growing up in a family where your parents are addicts, there is a lot of gaslighting. There is a lot of times when you know what you saw, you know what just happened, and then they just tell you that it didn't happen and that you're just imagining things. And a lot of addicts do this because they don't want to deal with their issues, hence why they're on drugs. They don't want to deal with their children's emotions because it's taking away from their high. And so rather than dealing with the fact that your kid just walked in and saw you putting the needle in your arm, they just tell you, no, you didn't. I was just checking my blood pressure and you thought you saw a needle, but you didn't see a needle. And it's not true. I touched on this in one of my last videos, hoarding tendencies. When you grow up with parents who are addicts, a lot of parents spend all of their money on drugs and they forget to buy food, they forget to buy clothes, they forget to buy things as simple as toothpaste. Or when you're older, they forget to buy you sanitary napkins, tampons, pads, whatever you want to call them. A lot of times they don't want to buy diapers for their kids, so you're rationing diapers. And that is when your hoarding tendencies come in. If I only use a drop of toothpaste, this toothpaste is going to last me longer. If I make sure that I don't change my pad as much as I need to change my pad, then I will make sure that I have pads throughout my whole cycle. There's just a lot of things that kids have to think about because they know that they're not going to be able to get anything else. And it sucks, which also goes into the fact of why I'm fat. I ate because I didn't know the next time we were going to get food, because food stamps at the time were not on a card. Food stamps were actual pieces of paper. And it's really easy to just hand over those pieces of paper for real money to get drugs. And so we didn't know when we were going to eat. We didn't know when we were going to be able to get a lot of these necessities that we needed. Trust issues is another one, and that kind of falls into, obviously, you know, you never feel like you can really trust your parents because you don't know what kind of crazy thing they're going to end up doing. Are they going to freak out on you for something that you didn't do, but they think that you did? Are you going to be able to trust them to pick you up from school, or are they going to forget? And then that carries on into relationships outside of the family. You know, can you really trust your friends? Can you trust your relationship that you're in? You know, how do you know these people aren't going to do to you what you've dealt with your whole life? Another one is paranoia. I am paranoid. Not paranoid like somebody who's on methamphetamines, but I have paranoid tendencies, and I have to tell myself that it's not true, because I grew up in a house where phones were being taken apart because the feds are listening, or they're waking you up at 2 o'clock in the morning when you have school the next day and telling you, do you see the people in the trees? Do you see them? They're watching us. They're watching us. And I have this issue that I always feel like I'm being watched. And I know I'm not being watched. It's not like I truly believe it or anything, but I do feel like that because I was conditioned my whole life to think that people were watching us because my parents were on meth. And when your parents are tweakers, they get some weird ideas in their head, you know, like tinfoil on the windows, like I said, waking you up, taking phones apart, thinking that people in the store are watching them. Like, I always felt like we were being watched. I always feel like we were being followed. And to this day, I'm very aware of my surroundings only because I was taught to do that, which is, in a way, is good, I guess, but it's definitely straining, so to say. Another one is questioning your worth. When you grow up with parents who idolize drugs and tend to forget to be your parent, you a lot of times don't know your worth because you were never made to feel special. You were always a burden. You were always you were left home alone so that they could go get their fix. Or, well, I would have more money if I didn't have to buy you clothes. And there was just a lot of those things, if that makes sense. And so being put down and being put on the back burner your whole life, you don't know what you're truly worth. You don't know that you're this amazing person and that you deserve love. Everyone deserves love. Everyone is an amazing person. Even the parents that are on drugs, you're an amazing person. You're just dealing with shit. You're dealing with some issues. You know what I mean? Like, we're all amazing. And you have to learn how to, you have to learn that you are worth it and that you don't deserve to be treated that way. Another one is self-punishment. Interestingly enough, I actually went out to lunch with two of my friends and I was talking to them about how I don't want to let myself do this until I accomplish this goal or something like that. And my friend said, I don't even feel like you're giving yourself goals. I feel like you're punishing yourself. And I told her, that's interesting. I disagree with you right now, but let me go ahead and dwell on it and let me kind of meditate on it, think about it, marinate it. And I came to the conclusion that maybe I do. Maybe I don't think that I deserve things, and so I have to work extra hard to get it. It very well could be. I'm still kind of thinking about that one. I very well could be in denial, but it was a valid point and I thought I'd add it to this video. Another issue that I've found is not being able to live in the moment. I definitely deal with this issue. I'm never living in the moment, and it hurts me that I can't live in the moment, but I'm always thinking of what ifs. My mind is always somewhere else. I'm never able to concentrate on what I need to concentrate. And I think a lot of that stems from the fact that I lived in my head quite a lot as a child because it was easier than dealing with the chaos that was around me. It's a lot easier to stare out the window and daydream than it is to deal with the fact that your parents are fighting and kitchen plates are flying everywhere and you think people are in the trees and all of that. It's a lot easier just to live in your head. And I tend to do that now when I live a very nice life. I have an amazing husband. I have 2 amazing, beautiful children. And to this day, I still kind of find my mind wandering. And a lot of times I have to bring myself back and be like, concentrate on your kids. And it doesn't take as much time anymore because I've trained my brain to do that. But still to this day, at the age of 30, my mind wanders quite a bit. And it takes me a while to like come back and live in the moment. And again, that's half the reason that I took my break around Christmas time, is because my mind was going 1,000 miles an hour. I'm like, I have to wrap gifts and I have videos that I have to film, and oh my gosh, I have to bake and I have to make sure that I make tamales. And what else do I have to do? Oh, I still have to do that. And I told myself, I'm like, okay, eliminate everything that isn't super, super, super important. And unfortunately, that was kind of YouTube for a little bit and a few other things, so that I could live in the moment. I could sit down and I could watch a movie with my kids and I could enjoy it. And I think that I need to do that more. And that's a huge issue that people who have parents who are drug addicts deal with. Taking on responsibilities that are not yours. I mentioned in my last video also that I've been cooking for years. The reason I've been cooking it for years is because somebody had to do it. You know, if there was food in the house, they weren't going to make it. And so I had to learn how to cook. And I realized that, you know, it actually was fun for me when I was younger, and I was actually getting really good at it, and I was starting to get compliments on my cooking, and it made me feel good. And so it's always something that I've tried to take pride in, is my baking and my cooking. But, you know, you have to learn certain survival skills. I was changing my sister's diaper. She's 2 years younger than me. And so I was probably 3 and I was changing her diaper. I was cooking at like 6 and 8. I was responsible for keeping the house clean at like 5. I remember being put on a stool and told to do the dishes at like 5. When I was 3, I was doing my own laundry, and I look at my kids, they're 3, and I'm like, these kids, they could not do their own laundry. I don't know what they would end up doing, but I don't know if I was doing it right or if I was doing it wrong, but I knew that, you know, you put the clothes in there and you add the soap and you have clean clothes, you put them in the dryer, and then I learned how to fold them. I shouldn't have had to do that at 5, but you learn survival skills really, really quick when you have to be the adult in the house. Being manipulated is a huge one. My parents would manipulate me quite a bit. And they would manipulate me for different reasons. They would manipulate me into thinking that good people were bad people and that bad people were okay. They would manipulate me into thinking that things were happening, that things weren't happening, that were happening. They would manipulate me into thinking it was perfectly fine that I had one pair of pants and I had to make that pair of pants last all year. They made me believe that it was okay that these things were happening, and I look back and I now know that was not okay. It was not. But they manipulated me and my sisters so much that we truly believed that what was happening around us was perfectly normal. As I said before, you know, being told that good guys are bad guys and bad guys are good guys. You know, they had no problem dropping us off at the tweaker down the street so that they could go score some drugs, but we were taught that police officers were dogs. There was this one time that we got pulled over. Me and my sister weren't wearing our seatbelt, and my mom and my dad were high as a kite. The police officer pulls us over, and my sister is barking. And luckily, the officer thought that it was cute that she was barking, but it's because my parents called them dogs. And I support our police force 100%. I have family members from my husband's side who are police officers, and I back our guys in blue 100% now. But back then, I truly believed that police were the enemy. And my parents explained to me that police were the enemy, and they told me exactly what to say to get away from the police. They told me exactly what to say when I was being questioned, and I truly believed that. Lying is okay to protect your family. It's perfectly fine to lie if it's going to keep us together. You lie to anybody that you need to, you know, as long as it keeps us together. Like when somebody asks if we have food, of course we have food. It's not our fault that we're poor, and they like to take down poor people because we don't have food. That's not what was happening. They were taking all of the money and they were spending it on drugs. but I believe that we just had a crappy situation and that they were trying to take us away because of unfortunate events. When I, looking back, realized there was plenty of money coming in, but it was all being spent on drugs. As much as my parents were dropping us off at this person and that person's house, and they didn't really give us the attention that we needed, there was also, I am so sorry about the shadow on my face. It's getting dark. I normally don't film around this time, but I have to because I gotta get this done. Sorry about that. We had no freedom at all. We weren't even allowed to walk down the street without somebody with us. We weren't allowed to have phone calls. If I had a phone call, I would have an adult or my dad or my mom listening on the other end. Up until I was 19 and still living at my dad's house, the phone stayed in his room. We weren't allowed to answer the phone. Only they were allowed to answer the phone. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know if they felt like being that overprotective, like, made them good parents. We weren't allowed to go to school dances. We weren't allowed to go to any extracurricular activities. It was school, home, school, home. And there was no other, we didn't go to friends' houses. We weren't really even allowed to have friends. I was able to have a few friends, but for the most part, there was no friends. Like, you don't need friends. You need to come home. So I still, to this day, don't really know what that was about. Was it just a form of control? Did they truly think they were keeping us out of trouble? I'm not quite sure. I was the smelly kid. And it's very, very embarrassing to admit that, but I was. Because half the time we didn't have water on, half the time we didn't have hot water. No one forced us to take a bath. Nobody in the family took a bath or a shower. And so it didn't really occur to me that maybe I should brush my teeth. Maybe I should take a bath. And we were never taught that proper hygiene. And so I was the smelly kid. I was fat and I was smelly. And when I started going through puberty, nobody gave me deodorant. You know, nobody was able, like, nobody told me about those things. And so I had no friends. I was made fun of a lot. And I was wearing the same clothes over and over and over and over and over because, again, we're only allowed to have one pair of pants to make us last the whole year. So you're having to reuse clothes, plus you're not showering. And it was a bad situation all around, and so I didn't have friends. I was also bullied. I was bullied quite a bit, not only because I have, you know, the red hair and I looked different than everybody, but also because, again, I was the weird kid. I didn't have very good social skills. I had no filter. I would go around talking about shit I should not have been talking about. I don't know what girl in 4th grade needs to be talking about the things I was talking about. And I talked about it like it was all nonchalant. Like it was no big deal. And people are looking at me astounded. And then I sat there and wondered why I had no friends. I wouldn't want to be my friend. I talked about drugs. I talked about sex. I talked about things that a 4th grader should not be talking about. And everybody around me understood it except for me because nobody explained to me that this shit doesn't happen in other people's houses. We weren't allowed to play with other kids because those kids were telling their parents, and their parents were like, don't talk to that girl, she's weird. And so, again, you know, if we did have friends, we either weren't really allowed to be their friends because their parents didn't like us, or my parents didn't like them, or they didn't want to be my friend because I was weird. The other reason I think I was weird is the fact that I was around weirdos all the time. You know? Your parents are on drugs, they bring you around weird people. Those weird people have weird tendencies. There's so many situations I don't even want to get into where things were not okay and things were done that should not have been done. And again, I thought it was normal. And I would just go talking about it. I had no filter. Unless, of course, it was somebody who was really important, like CPS or the authorities. Then I wouldn't say anything. But when it came to just normal people, I was just no wonder my parents were so upset with me. I kept spilling the beans. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about things that I deal with now having my own kids because, yeah, I've left that situation, but now having my own kids, it's like a whole new set of issues that I'm coming across. So now we're going to talk about that. Number one is I don't know when I'm extreme, if that makes sense. Sometimes I'm like in the store and my kids want something and my mind immediately goes to, you don't even need that. I didn't have that and I'm fine. But then I have to tell myself, yeah, but you didn't live a normal life. And so I literally rely on my husband so much to tell me if I'm going overboard and wanting to overbuy. Oh, they'd love this. They need this. Or if I'm not being giving enough because I'm like, it's not that serious, you don't need it. So my husband, who lives a really normal life, is able to kind of tell me, he's like, you know, it's fine. And then other times he'll be like, no, they really don't need that, babe. And I'm glad that I have him to kind of steer me in a direction, because I'm usually right about how I feel. But a lot of times he's been like, I don't know, I think that they could use that. And I'll be like, oh, okay. So thank God that I have somebody who's come from a normal background that can kind of give me an idea of if I'm being a little extreme either way. Another one is I can't play with my kids, and it breaks my heart because they're always like, Mommy, you play me? Mommy, you want to play me? And I try really hard to go in there and like, I pretend, if that makes sense. I pretend that I'm having fun when I'm playing with their little cars on their rug that, you know, it looks like a road. It's PJ Masks. Anyways, I pretend, or like I pretend that I'm enjoying when I'm chasing them around and wrestling with them, or like when I'm doing that kind of stuff, but like, I don't know how to play. I never got to play when I was younger. I always had to take care of my sister. I was always, you know, doing things that weren't needed to do as a child, and so I didn't know how to be a child, and so it's hard for me to know how to play with my kids. And I know that sounds bad, but I still spend time with them. Obviously, we know we do puzzles, board games, I'm cool. I like doing that. But when it comes to like the other things, like I still don't really know how. And it's interesting because my kids are teaching me. They're teaching me how to get in touch with my inner child, and I love it. I obsess about their appearance. Anytime that we leave the house, I make sure that their hair is done, their faces are washed. I make sure that they get baths on a regular basis, which I'm pretty sure that's like a normal thing. But I'm just saying, like, I make sure that, you know, like if their clothes are wrinkly, I'm like, you can't wear that shirt. I'm so worried that they're going to go out into public and they're going to look not loved, and that people are going to judge me as a parent because my kids don't look loved. They look scruffy, if that makes sense. Like I tell them all the time, they look like a ragamuffin. If, you know, like, no, I don't want you to wear that. It looks kind of ragamuffin-y. And that's something that I deal with. I'll go out looking a hot mess. I don't care. But my kids, I want to make sure that my kids look 100% when we leave the house, because I don't want them to be judged, and I don't want them to look back on pictures and be like, wow, like mom didn't care. If that makes sense, because looking back on my childhood pictures, I'm always in clothes that are dirty. I'm always in clothes that are, I'm always in pictures with the background being all hoardy and disgusting. And so I don't want them to have that. I'm super paranoid about somebody taking my kids because of the things that have happened to me in my life. I always worry that something's going to happen to them, so I don't let people watch them very often. Like right now, I'm in the back of my head, my neighbor is watching my kids while I film this. And part of me is like, I need to call and check to make sure everything's okay. I know she's not going to do anything to my kids. It's just this paranoid thing. If I'm in public, I'm holding my kids' hands. When I'm at an amusement park or I'm at the zoo or anything, I'm either holding my kid's hand or I got him a backpack with a leash. I don't care. Judge me all you want. I don't care. My kids like to run away, and I don't want to lose them, and I don't want some weirdo to find them. So yes, I'm that mom that has my twins on a leash. I don't care. Like I said, judge me, because I know my kids are safe. Doesn't bother me. Again, with the paranoia, I keep my house locked up like Fort Knox. Like, every window is locked up. My front door is locked up. I've had a couple weird experiences here. Like these guys, they came up to my door and they're like, let us in, let us in. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna let you in. And I mean, it made me happy. Like, they grabbed the doorknob on my screen door, but because I have a security screen and I had it locked, they weren't able to get in. But sometimes I think about it and I'm like, holy crap, what if they were able to open that door? So I keep my house locked up. We have cameras. Like, I don't play. I want to make sure that we are safe. I am so afraid of CPS. And if CPS came here, everybody tells me, they're like, if CPS came to your house, you would have nothing to worry about. Your house is clean. Your kids have like a ridiculous amount of clothes. You have 2 freezers. I have, you know, 2 freezers. I have a fridge and freezer in the I have a fridge and freezer in the house. And then I also have one in the garage that I have meat from Costco. I have food stored in the garage, you know, that doesn't fit in the pantry in my kitchen. Like, I mean, they're not beat. Everything's fine. The thing is, I'm still paranoid. A white car pulls up in front of my house. I'm like, oh God, it's CPS. Who cares if it is? Like, if they come in here, they're going to know that my kids are well taken care of and I'm not going to have an issue. But it goes back to knowing that CPS was in my life. Me and my sister got taken away constantly. It was always foster care, parents got us back. Foster care, parents got us back. And so there was just a lot of that going on. And so I get paranoid. But I have nothing to worry about, and I have to tell myself that. I have major mom guilt constantly, always feeling like, what if I didn't do that right? Or what if I over-exaggerated? Or what if I overreacted? Or like, what if I didn't do that well enough? So I have extreme mom guilt, and I think that goes back to me wanting the perfect life for my kids because I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that my parents made and then continue the cycle. I want to be the one that breaks the cycle. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I am paranoid of backgrounds. If I'm going to take pictures of my kids, I try and make sure that there are like not a lot of messes. There was a video I posted earlier I think it was one of my last videos, and I saw some of the stuff on my dresser because I was sick and I moved it out of the way. I didn't move it out of the way, I should say. And I was paranoid and wanted to take the video down because it looked dirty. There was a Halloween video, and I'm sitting in my living room, and the whole time I was editing it, all I could look at was the fact that my kids had thrown blankets on the floor from the couch, and I didn't see them, and they were in there. And I wanted to delete the video and not put it up because I didn't want people to think that my house was dirty. And I have like this weird issue with that. And last but not least, I get really paranoid around police officers. As much as like I said, I'm 100% support our police force. Obviously, I know there's bad cops out there. I'm not trying to get into debate with you, but for the most part, I back our boys in blue 100%. They keep us safe. They do everything in their power. They put their life on the line so that my life can be safe. But I still get paranoid around officers. And I'm always very like finicky, and I'm sure they probably think that I'm guilty of something, but it's because I was conditioned my whole life to think that police officers were the bad guys. And so still to this day, you know, like if I see an officer and he's behind me, I'm like, oh God, he's gonna pull me over. Well, if he pulls you over, he pulls you over, you know? Like, it's not that serious. But I have to tell myself, you know, it's not that serious. Anyways, it looks like my battery is about to die and I'm running out of space on my memory card, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. I hope you guys are okay with me opening up a little bit about my life. I thought this would be a good video so maybe other people out there don't feel so alone. Thank you so much for watching. Go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!